Right. Today I'm going to show you guys pitching grips and different grips that you can use to throw all the pitches that we might be able to throw. I'm going to start with the four seam fastball, which is just grabbing the ball across the horseshoe here that you can see. Sorry. And if we can get our fingers across there as we're throwing the ball, then we can create four seams going back this way, which helps the ball to stay up. This is a fastball that we would throw primarily if we have good velocity. It gets up over a person's bat, or maybe we've got an 0-2 count, 1-2 count, and we want to throw something above the belly button and get it up and over their bat for a strikeout. That's a good pitch. If a guy is high velocity, that probably should be their number one pitch most of the time. Guys that are a little bit lower velocity, maybe low 70s at the high school level, would want to use probably a two seam grip. There's a couple different varieties of that. One is to throw it across these two seams right here and just hold it that way. Or one I prefer is actually to throw along the seams right there. So the advantage to this is you can get a little bit more movement, particularly with this along the seams. You can put more pressure with your middle index finger and get it to kind of cut a little bit, or you can put more pressure with this finger right here, and that will kind of give you more of a sinking kind of fastball that you're throwing. You can even vary this. Some guys will even go across here or across here. Whatever feels comfortable and helps you to create movement. That would be your two seam fastball that you can throw. Variations on these, you'll hear people talking about guys that throw a cutter or a sinker. And there's different ways of throwing that, but basically a sinker is that idea that where you're going to put more pressure with this finger right here and push through it kind of in that pronated portion through that side of the ball, and it creates a little bit of this kind of a side spin going for a right-hander down and into a right-handed batter, or down and away for a left-handed batter. And it just kind of keeps that, like they call it a sinker, it kind of dives in on that right-handed hitter and makes it kind of tough for them to elevate anything. And a lot of times they get jammed a little bit and hit some weak ground balls. So that would be the sinker. The cutter would be kind of just the opposite, where, and a lot of guys that throw that might actually go here and just make sure that they're pushing through and cutting through the half of the ball. This finger, the middle finger, is creating pressure and just cutting through it, and it kind of slides away from a right-handed batter or into a left-handed batter. But you can hold it a variety of ways. I prefer to throw my cutter more with just use my finger against the two inside of this two seams right here. Sorry. And just pushing through it that way. Let's see if I maybe turn this way and see it better. So I'm kind of cutting through it as I'm throwing that cutter. Next pitch is our changeup. Most of our guys, we like to throw a circle change. You can do that with a four seam grip, just like you saw with the fastball, except they call it a circle change because I'm getting, gotta get into the center of this thing here. I'm trying to get that kind of that circle. You don't actually have to have a circle, just as long as you got these fingers off to the side of the ball, that will be what you need. I try to keep a loose grip with my fingers here. My fingers don't really hold on to the ball very much. As a result of that, when I throw this pitch, sometimes it'll go a little higher. So I actually aim at the plate, so it'll be above the knees when I throw the actual pitch. Key here is you just kind of get it deep into your palm. Throw it like you throw a fastball. As it comes off here, it's coming off of those two fingers. It reduces the velocity. If you can hopefully get about an 8 to 10 mile an hour difference between your fastball and your changeup, that's what you're looking for. If you throw a four seam fastball, then a four seam changeup will be good because it'll imitate the same spin as your fastball, but guys won't recognize the speed difference. If you throw a two seam fastball, then you probably want to throw a two seam changeup to imitate the same thing. And the cool thing about doing this, again, is you can create more movement. If I have more pressure with my middle finger and I push through it and pronate, it will sink away from a left-handed batter down and into a right-handed batter. If I want it to sink away from a right-handed batter, then I'm going to use this finger right here, the one that's holding onto the ball, to kind of push through it this way, and it'll cut away from that right-handed batter. So, and I just have our guys experiment with the different pressure points and seeing if they can control it and get it in the zone. The key here is they got to get it in the zone. If you can't throw a changeup for a strike, it doesn't do you any good. So that's our changeups. Curveball on those, I'm going to turn this way. We want to get our middle finger up against that inside of that seam. That's what's going to create leverage, so that when I get over the top of the ball, I'm going to create that top spin that causes the ball to drop. So again, when I'm throwing this one, I'm going to come through here, fingers on top of the ball, and I'm going to spin it this way. So I've got that tight top spin that causes the sink on the ball. Something that happens often with players here is they'll let it slip out a little bit too much. So they've got to really work on a lot of rotation drills. You can take a small Gatorade bottle it's almost the same size as a baseball on the circumference there, and they can learn to throw that and see if they're getting the right spin with the Gatorade bottle. But again, just make sure that they got that leverage right here. Some guys will even tuck the finger behind it, throw what they call a knuckle curve, where they're just doing that. If that works better for a player, I let them kind of experiment and find out. For me, I like to have both fingers on the ball. I try to keep the thumb from not being on this side, because that's going to reduce the spin if it's there. If I can get it on this side, now when I spin it, it's not going to stop that spin because it's not up against that seam. It's off of that seam. So I try to hold it opposite right there so that I can create that spin. The way we teach our guys to throw their slider is basically the same grip, but instead of getting on top of the ball, we want to stay more on the side of the ball. So we're creating a side spin, and it will break out and away. I love the slider for a strikeout pitch. If you throw from the exact same arm angle as your fastball, guys won't recognize right away that it's not a fastball. And if you start it out to the outer half of the plate, you'll get them to start swinging, and it'll end up breaking off the plate where they can't reach it. And so it's a great strikeout pitch with the slider. It's also, if you're down in the count, 2-0, 2-1, a guy's looking for a fastball. Sometimes you can get back to even by throwing it right at them and have it break over the inside half, and they won't swing at it because they're kind of bailing out, but it gets you back even in the count with a strike there, and then keeps them guessing then on the 2-2 pitch or whatever else that you might be throwing later. So that's how we teach our guys to throw sliders. There's other people that might teach it kind of like that two-seam cutter, where they're just going to really slice through this outer half of the ball, pushing down and through it to create a little harder slider. Ours is more of a slow slider, like a curveball that just breaks sideways. Next one after that, we've had some success with a few guys that have learned how to throw knuckleballs. Typically what they're going to do is they're going to get their two fingers here up against that seam right there. And as they're throwing the ball, they're going to push out with those fingertips, because normally when we throw, we're going to get this backwards rotation. But by pushing out with the fingertips, we can try to create no spin or just slight spin over the top, which causes the ball to drop and move a lot. If you get the no spin, it looks like it's actually moving all over the place as it's coming up there. Takes a lot of practice. A lot of guys have to start when they're about 5th or 6th grade and really just work with it. We've only had a couple guys that mastered it, but when they do master it, is a very, very effective pitch. So that's how we would throw the knuckleball. Just a couple others. Screwball, we really don't have anybody that throws that, but when I've thrown it in the past, I just, instead of being here like my fastball, I move up the ball, and I'm going to use my index finger to really pronate as I throw the ball. So as I'm coming through it, I'm here. I'm gonna move on and sliding through it this way, so that I'm creating this really tight spin this way that moves arm side. So if I was a right-handed pitcher, it's going to go in on that right-handed batter, away from the left-handed batter, and it's just that spin that makes that happen. So that's another one that sometimes guys will learn how to throw. So we've got our curveball, our slider, changeup are probably the pitches other than the fastball that most of our guys throw. And occasionally we've got some guys that can throw, the knuckleball, or if they've got really big fingers, they can throw the split fingered fastball, where they're just going to split it out to the side of the ball there. So hopefully that helps to know the pitching grips, and that's it.